نحمده ونستعينه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ. Have the children come in and sit down and be quiet.
Allahu Akbar.
They should hear the whole thing.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost to forgive us for our sins, because that was the promise. That was one of the promises of Siyam Ramadan. We believe in the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's important that we believe and we hold fast to the promises that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes, because inna Allah la yukhliful mi'ad. Allah does not renege on His promise. We do things because of promise. We fast because of promise. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. We are fasting on the promise of that we will get taqwa, inshaAllah ta'ala. We are holding fast to the promise. We're trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want you to think about how we've trusted in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in not just getting us through the month of Ramadan. Walillahi alhamd. And we're grateful for that. But getting us through everything else in our life. Every one of us can remember a time when things were really rough. Maybe they're rough now. Or a time we didn't think we were going to get through this. Even if it was something like, an examination, in school. We didn't think that we were going to finish this. Or we didn't think we were going to finish that. But we got through it. Or we didn't think we were going to get through that particular day. I want all the children inside. We didn't think that we were going to get through a day of fasting, but we got through it. We didn't think that maybe our actions, our sins would be forgiven, but they were forgiven, inshallah ta'ala. This is all based upon the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jannah is a promise. It's a promise for the muttaqeen. The door of that we have in Jannah, the Prophet said, "Inna fi jannati babun yuqalu lahu aryan la yadkhuluhu illa as-sa'imun." He says, "Verily, in paradise is a door. It's called aryan. Only the people who are fasting, the people are fasting into that door." This is a promise. We don't see any of these things. We can't even see the ujur from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the blessings and reward. We don't see them, but it's a promise. We believe in that. We may feel the barakah sometimes, but we don't see it. It's not tangible. So the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greater than the promise of any man. The promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what Allah has in store for you, is more, is awthaq, is more assured than the promise of your employer, than the promise of the advertiser, the promise of the salesman that this product is going to work for you, the promise of the one that says you take this, you're going to lose weight. These are all promises. But inna wa'adallahi haqq. The only true promise, guaranteed, is the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now Allah has promised us, the Prophet has said, "Man soma Ramadana imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi." Whomever fasts Ramadan in faith, wa ihtisaban, and seeking out his reward, his previous sins are forgiven. Now, Rabbul Alameen, I'm going to go on your promise. We don't go around assuming that we're sinless, but we're going to assume that the promise of Allah is true. The Prophet also said, "Man qama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi." Whoever prays up the night of Ramadan in faith, wa ihtisaban, seeking reward, his previous sins are forgiven. And Rabbul Alameen, we're going to go on your promise of your Prophet. We want to believe in the Prophet's words. Alayhi salatu wasalam. So brothers and sisters, what I want you to do post Ramadan is to act as if Allah's promise was true. Act as if He's forgiven our previous sins. So we don't carry the burden of anything that happened before. I hope that's not my phone. I hate that. I hate that. Yeah, take this out somewhere. We're going to act on the premise that the previous issues that we have in our life, we're going to put that away. The previous problems you have with somebody, put that away. The things you might have done in the dunya or the things you've done in Islam that wasn't right, inshallah, that's forgiven. You don't act with previous guilt. You know, the Prophet ﷺ said, that the person who repents from his sin is like a person who has no sin.
Allahu Akbar.
I believe in the promise of Allah and His Messenger.
Alhamdulillah.
And it's important that we are able, brothers and sisters, from time to time. This is one of the things of Ramadan. Ramadan is a renewal of the spirit of your faith. Because sometimes we think we can't even get through Ramadan, but yet we get through it.
Allahu Akbar.
We can't get through this thing, yet we get through it. We can't get this bill paid, yet we get the bill paid. We can't this, yet it happens. And constantly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us His power. And it's important that people believe and understand Allah's power, because that's what gives you the impetus to move forward with determination. A lot of things don't get done in our lives because